Hi, this is Nick from Music for the Head and Heart.buzz, and I'm with Scott Wainwright. Good morning to you, Scott.
Very good morning.
So I thought we'd start off by talking about the blues, which I understand that's primarily... I'm not a big fan of genres, but that's kind of the style. So how did you get into being interested in writing and playing?
The blues thing is just what came out, if I'm honest. In all honesty, I never ever set out to play anything in the blues style. I do touch on a load of different stuff with all my music, and influences are coming from absolutely everywhere. I'd say what made me pick up a guitar in the first place is wanting to write songs and express myself. At school, I was particularly interested in the arts and in English, although I was no good at any of those things. Not academically. Art I could have probably, but academically, no, I could never apply myself to academia, as it were. But I had this desire to want to write lyrics and express stuff. And I think a friend of mine suggested we learn to play guitars. At that point, I was into hip hop music, so I like the street poetry, of that sort of stuff. It's from there I sort of got into. My parents had quite a vast taste in stuff, and I sort of slipped into the Beatles, and from the Beatles into Bob Dylan, and I suppose from Bob Dylan that's where I sort of discovered all this sort of raw music that's just played on a guitar. And it's from there, it's like tracing it all back to there, and tracing it for what were Bob Dylan's influences, and just going from that place of here's a guy with a guitar, and initially started off with a guitar writing songs, and that was really where I wanted to. That's really where I started. So I suppose when I started playing and I started singing and started writing, this is what came out.
Well, Dylan, obviously, I mean, I saw Dylan in the 70s,
Yeah.
It's the only artist I ever queued all night to see.
Yeah, wow.
and is an extraordinary, still playing and still touring after all these years. So you started playing at what sort of age?
I was about 18 actually, wasn't I? So maybe 18. That's when I first started learning to play guitar, shall we say, and like as soon as I got some chords together, I started writing songs. That was it. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't really learn anybody else's songs. I had a few lessons. I did some classical guitar lessons. But my teacher did sort of say to me after a while, saying, you're going to have to apply yourself a bit more to the discipline of playing classical guitar. You can't be improvising on pieces, which is what was happening, and you can't, you've got to really sit there. So he said you need to make your mind up what sort of playing you want to do, because I like you playing, but if you're going to play classical guitar, you've got to follow these pieces of music. Yeah. And then we come back to the academic thing. I'm just not cut out for following things as they should be, I suppose. It's always been a problem. A blessing or a curse, I don't know.
Well, I mean, who knows? In some alternate universe, maybe Scott Wainwright, hip-hop artist, or Scott Wainwright, classical virtuoso guitarist. But we're very pleased that we have Scott doing your own thing. We're big fans on Music for the Head and Heart of not totally categorizing, because the love of music is great love of music. So when you're writing a song, what's kind of usually your starting point? Is it a musical thing? Is it a lyric? Does it vary? How does that work?
Well, because a lot of my music, I do write a lot of instrumental pieces as well. I'm a big fan of instrumental music as well. So I've got vocal pieces and instrumental pieces. So somebody asked me this recently, and again I was stumbling around trying to find an answer. With a lot of songs, I tend to I might start with a lyrical idea. And that be something I want to express, but not always. Sometimes I'll just be playing, and I'll start hearing something and thinking, okay, and I maybe sort of like just hum until words appear, and then we've got a line here, and then we're thinking, okay, where's this line going to go from there? You know, where we're going to go, what we're going to say from this point. And a lot more now, I like to sort of be quite economic with the lyrical content. I like to just get to the point. I'm not. When I first started, I loved that Bob Dylan thing. You know, 25 verses, let's do it. You know, but after a while, I found that although, you know, I have done songs in that sort of style, actually what suits me better is quick bursts of words, you know, and get to the point, if indeed there is a point, because I like to leave them quite open, actually, because I think all good art is as much for as the viewer or the listener or the reader or, you know, the watcher, whatever, as it is for the artist. I've sort of done my part when I've done when I've written the song, and it's up to other people what they take from that. And but as we're an instrumental, there's no real starting point with an instrumental. I suppose it's just I just play around with stuff starts happening, and then the stuff that I'm happy with, that, you know, it's in piecing stuff together. I might have several different pieces that I think, okay, that will work into that, and that into that, and all these things, they grow the more you're playing live. All of them's growing. I listen back to songs I've recorded, you know, 10 years ago that I play now, and the lyrics are different. I don't know where at some point I've got rid of lines, so, you know, so I've done it there and then, you know, I've just, maybe I'd forgotten what the line was and replaced it with something else. But definitely, yeah, it's an organic process when you're playing them live as well, I find as well.
And you're a working musician, and I think there's a lot of people have all kinds of myths about, I'm going to be a working musician. What do you love most about it, and what's the biggest challenge about it?
The biggest challenge for me is there's several big challenges, but obviously keeping yourself in work is quite a challenge. But I find the biggest challenge is a lot of the travelling, often on your own as a solo performer. You know, I do some duo stuff as well, but you know, primarily as a solo performer, it's a very lonely, you know, sort of wandering into places, and, you know, you're on your own, you play on your own, you'll have your break in middle of sets on your own, and then go home on your own. So it's like, I find that you've got to gear yourself up for that, something that, you know, I have to keep on, you know, I have to really sort of drive. I'm a homebody as well, as you know, and it's, so I'm part gypsy, part homebody. That's, you know, I love to get home, but so that's one of the biggest challenges, I suppose. What do I like most about it? Well, at the end of the day, I am my own boss. I do as I please, and what I always dreamed of as a you know, I think back to sort of being 10, 11. I dreamed of doing something with the creativity that I felt inside of myself. You know what I mean? And, you know, and whatever that would be. And I used to think, well, how possibly could you ever, you know, sustain yourself from doing this creative stuff? Other people seem to do it, but is it luck? Is it hard work? I'd say it were both of those things. But being working class, I suppose, you know, it's about hard graft, you know, getting down and getting out there. I do a lot of gigs a year. People say, well, how do you earn a living? Well, because I keep on gigging.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you have to do. This one is called The Weekender.
I've been working hard every day. I've been working hard every day. I keep on killing my boss over and over in my head. I'm gonna get at that cruel man for all the bad things he said. I'm gonna find somewhere where the beer never runs out. I'm gonna find somewhere where the beer never runs out. I ain't making up my dying bed. I'm gonna drink all these blues clean on out of my head. I'm gonna find somewhere to dance these blues away. I'm gonna find somewhere to dance these blues away. I ain't working no more. I'm damn sure I ain't working no more. I ain't working no more. Down on that killing floor.
I've always been, the recording side is what I love the most. I love recording, but again, we're in times now where recorded music is, well, it's so hard to, you know, to pierce the lid on that, isn't it? And earn any serious income from that. Not that's why you set out to do it, but it costs so much to do. You know, so it's one of those things. You know, it needs to make some money in order to keep making it. You know, and that's the way I look at it. But yeah, what I always set out to do is we'll record, and you know that's what I enjoy. I love playing when I get there and I sit in front of an audience. I do love that, but there's something very special about me getting that, you know, that album in my hands and saying, this is it. This is what I wanted to make. You know, and that's. So I don't know whether I really answered the question there.
Well, how's music? I mean, I have my own ideas, but I'm interested from your point of view as a working musician, because a lot of the people we interview here point out that there's the craft of playing and writing, and then there's I need to be able to feed my cats and pay the mortgage at the end of the month. So there's practical considerations. How's technology and the music sort of industry changed since you started out?
Well, my first band that we ever played in, our first gigs were in 1998, and we were just sort of seeing the internet appear at that point. And obviously I'd grown up without the internet, so as the internet come along, obviously at this point I'm in my early 20s when the internet's really started taking hold, and we had a bass player in the band who was a bit younger than all of us, and he was straight away tech savvy. So, you know, I remember him designing a website, and I'm thinking, what on earth is who's going to look at this? You know, and you sort of couldn't see, you couldn't see where it would go. I think the one thing that technology has added to it is back in the sort of like 97, 98 when we were sort of starting out with the gigs, we'd go to the venues with a poster.
Yes.
After we'd been to the venues to get the gig in the first place, and then we'd go with a poster to put up, and that, you know, and we'd end up with 20 posters around the area, and that's the way you told people that it was happening. And obviously, that's for years and years and years. That's how people did it, and to some degree, we still do that now. But very much now, it's more about having the social media presence, isn't it? You know, and having the music there. But I think what comes along with that is that we've got so much more stuff at our fingertips. It's very hard to hone in. You know, why was 70s or 60s music better than it is now? Well, it might not have been, but I think people's were able to hone in more on a particular area, and there wasn't so many distractions. People saved up for an album, you know, and certainly even when I was growing up in the 80s, that, you know, my pocket money, you know, it would be, I'd save up and buy a vinyl album, or, you know, a cassette, or you know, as when CDs appeared, I'd save up for those things, and you sort of treasure that thing for time, because it'd be a while before you got something else.
Yeah. Now
we can find it instantly, and we can sort of discard it instantly. You know, it's so that's one of my criticisms. But also the positive point is, you know, I can find music from anywhere in the world, right here, right now. I can see what kind of music they're making in Iran. You know, I can look at that, and I can take whatever I want from that, and I can enjoy that. You know, and artists like me their music can be enjoyed, you know, all over the world. Whereas before we were, you know, you'd obviously need the record deal, you know, and the distribution deal. Whereas now, the video we're making now, quite possibly somebody in Japan could watch this.
Yes.
You know, and I think that's the amazing thing about technology. But I think the trick now is going to be, how do we separate the wheat from the chaff? In as listeners. I don't mean that as in what I think's good and you think's good. As you know, there could be very different things. It's how do we, us as a listener, get down to what we really want to hear.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, the idea of this platform is exactly that, is to say, let's take technology and let's get people who have an absolute passion and love for what they're doing, and start to join up the dots so people get to hear about people, you know. So, like, probably people will have completely different tastes. Yeah. And if people want to find out about you, what's the best place for them to find out about you?
Well, obviously all the social media, you can find me on Facebook and Twitter, but I have a website, scottwainwright.co.uk. From there you can access all the social media, and there's I have a list of all my gigs on the bands in town thing. But actually, if you to be fair, if you just Googled Scott Wainwright, you'd find videos would pop up. It's there. Thankfully, there's not only many other musicians going under this name as a wrestler. But that if you Google and find him, that's not me.
Not you in your formative years.
No, he's got no shirt on. I generally have a shirt on and a guitar. But yes, the website is probably the best way to. And from there you can find obviously Bandcamp. Yeah. You can find links to if you stream on Spotify and all that stuff, you know.
And then finally, you sound like you're somebody who's sort of like listened to a lot of different music, and you've already referenced like a number of artists that I absolutely love. You know, I think we probably share an agreement on a lot of things. Yeah. If you're going to pick sort of like 2 or 3 albums that you go, you know what, those for me are like pivotal albums, and they may change on a daily basis, but for you, for today, what would come to the surface of things that you...
Well, this would probably surprise people, because of the music I play and the music I enjoy listening to are probably... they're not far apart, because I think it's all connected, ultimately. But the albums that have sustained me through, you know, through most of my life have been... there's a rotating sort of 10 that, you know, that I go for. I'll just name a couple of them. Pet Sounds, the Beach Boys, is one of my favourite albums, but also one of theirs called Friends, which is an album after Pet Sounds. It's just an album that I don't know, that's just spoke to me. But I also enjoy Miles Davis in a Silent Way. If I'm going to choose a Bob Dylan album, which always makes me top 10, this might be surprising because it's a later one, Love and Theft. I think is a masterpiece, although I do love Blood on the Tracks and Desire. But Love and Theft, it just came out at a time, I don't know, it's probably the time that came out that more I remember. I also love Swordfish Trombones, Tom Waits. I love. Got to represent some women here, aren't we? Kate Bush, Hounds of Love. I love that. Now my mind has gone a bit blank now. I'd say those are the ones that stay with me constantly. Beatles, Revolver. If I were to choose a Beatles album, although it was Sgt. Pepper's that introduced me to the world of. I remember the funny thing was I went into hip hop and I read an interview with Run DMC and they were listing their 10 favourite albums. And they listed Sgt. Pepper's in and I'm thinking, these are rappers, why do they like that? So I was intrigued, and so I said to my mum for Christmas, says, any chance you could buy me a copy of Sgt. Pepper's for Christmas? She says, why would you want that? So I just thought I'd hear it, you know. So once I heard that, that's what opened the door.
Yeah.
To all sorts of... So again, I suppose Sgt. Pepper's, it sticks, but my favourite Beatles album is probably Revolver. But it's one of those things that stayed with me, you know. Trying to think, my mind has gone completely blank now on albums.
Well, if we were on a desert island, let me tell you, I would be very happy with your selection. You ticked a lot of boxes across a lot of genres, and my belief is that good music is really good music, and a lot of the time it's ahead of the curve. And sometimes, I mean, we mentioned Tom Waits as a great example, Miles Davis. A lot of the time, people hear these artists and go, what is it?
Yes.
So I thank you very much for being on Music for the Head and Heart. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. So it's scottwainwright.co.uk.
That's where you'll find
me. And from there, people can look at gigs, and look, if they want to book you, they can look at booking you.
Yeah. There's the email on there to book. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Scott Wainwright, and this is Rolling Down the Road.
Dog's been a hounding me, black cat's on my path. Big chain's been a binding me, trying to pull me back. I've been lost, I've been down and out, I've been low down on the ground. I got no doubt I'm gonna get on found. I gotta go, man, I gotta go. Gotta go, oh man, I gotta go. Gotta keep on rolling down the road. Down on the call. Better days are coming soon, it's a good news from afar. Good looking tile on my roof, the rain keeps pouring in. I keep searching for the truth, cause the light don't mean a thing. Gotta go, man, I gotta go. Gotta go, man, I gotta go. Gotta keep on rolling down the road. Gotta go, go, go. Man, I gotta go. Gotta go, go, go. Broke down, gotta go. I gotta go, go, go. Man, I gotta go. Gotta keep on rolling down the, down the, down the, down, 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 down the road, down the road, down that road.